The Phantom Wolf proudly presents Twin Sol Chronicles, Numoora, by J.D. Bader. Read to you by Jesse Harper. Book 1. Prologue. Deep in a dense jungle, a lone man wandered through the night in search of a priority target. Legends say that humanity was never meant to rule the jungle, for the giants claimed dominion over them, and they were correct. Before him, in the inky black night, rested a giant, a god to his people back home. Its large back was turned to him, a large, squishy part of its body fully and completely exposed. It had dark skin that will soon be damaged by the man's large syringe. He felt like a knight in shining armor slaying a monster. Though killing this beast wasn't his destiny, he was more than happy to allow his lord to do this task. He carefully stepped closer to the creature and inserted the needle. The skin twitched slightly upon the ejection, but otherwise didn't budge. The man could almost feel the heat radiating from the body. He pulled the plunger back, allowing the tube to fill up with the warm red blood of the creature. Once filled, he removed the syringe and placed it within a silenced pistol. Carefully backing up, he moved at a brisk pace towards the portal home. As a servant of Lord Abel, it was his duty to deliver this file to him as soon as... "You know, sugar, that kinda hurt," came a sudden loud booming voice behind. It was feminine, to be sure, also hypnotic. The man froze in his tracks and turned his head slowly back to gaze into the large, almost glowing green eyes, followed by a wide, toothy grin. The pupils were almost seemed to twitch like they were focusing themselves, to look more human than they really were. "Hello there," the voice exclaimed, coming from the beast. "You're kinda cute for a human. Care to introduce yourself? How about a little dinner date before you poke me again?" The creature giggled, and the man, who could only scream and run toward the portal home, 200 feet away. He could already see the glowing white outline of salvation. Once his speed kicked in, he will be revered as a hero by Lord Abel himself. That won't happen now. Not now, with a large tree suddenly blocking his path. No, not a tree. A tail. A long, snake-like tail, covered in black scales. Long branch-like fingers came down on the man and gently picked him up. No more footing, no more chance to return home. Damn, the man thought, without any other options, remembering the mission he was sent out to complete. He saw the portal before him and brought his gun out. He aimed carefully towards the portal and shot the syringe through it. "Lord Abel, forgive me." The monster turned him towards its face. Those brilliant green eyes will be the last memory he'll ever have. "Any particular reason you stung me with that thingy and shot it out?" it asked. The man refused to believe such a beautiful voice as came from such a monster. Even the elven tongue was wasted upon her, he thought. I've got nothing to say to you, beast, he replied coldly. Do as you wish to me. I've completed my task. The next time you see one of my kind, it will be the last. Is that right? Well then, challenge accepted. A heavy gust of wind started blowing from behind the man going towards the beast. It moaned with glee. You smell delicious, sugar, it shrugged. Well, best not let you go to waste. The man could only scream as he was tossed carelessly into a dark, wet cave. The floor below him was squishy, warm, and slippery. Long, white rocks surrounded him in a haunting shape, while warm, almost hot air billowed in and out of the cavern. But he knew better. The color drained from his face as he came to the conclusion that this was its mouth. He saw moonlight behind him and he tried to crawl for freedom, but the slickness of the floor prevented him from getting far. The floor came alive for just a second to toss him into its back, landing on the giant teeth of the monster. The light vanished just as the teeth from above started coming down. Little did the monster realize that from behind the portal before it closed, Lord Abel, his biologist, Dr. Marianne Alexandrina, and his servant, Tiberius Twig, heard everything and thought one of their own being eaten alive by a goddess revolted them. More so Tiberius. But right behind his head, thanks to a perfectly timed dodge, a sturdy syringe of goddess blood struck a wooden pole. Abel's whole appearance was both powerful and regal, with jet black hair styled into two curved points like horns and deep brown eyes. He wore a standard deep blue suit with a purple cape and gold pauldrons on his shoulders. The final touch was a small golden crown on his head. This man truly was a king. Close the portal, Tiberius, he ordered to the lead doctor of his lab with a deep voice. Tiberius, a bald elf with aqua-colored eyes, his long pointed ears jutted out either side of his head. He wore a white lab coat and a dark pants and shoes. With great disgust, Tiberius obeyed and shut the portal down by grabbing an oversized lever, pulling it down. Was the mission successful, my lord? He asked in the elven tongue his people used. Did we obtain her blood? Abel laughed darkly as he walked up behind the elf. Oh, yes, we did. A lot of it. Could you not hear her voice? With a steady tug of the syringe popped out of the pole and sat carefully in his hand. He handed it to the woman behind him. Get to it, Marian. I want the formula done by the time of the festival. Yes, my lord, stated the red-haired woman after a bow. She had a strange accent, not found it anywhere else in Twin Sol. She had deep blue eyes and a beauty mark under her left eye. Aside from that mark, The rest of her skin was flawless and fair, hidden away underneath a white lab coat. From the corner of his eyes, Tiberius saw Abel grab a dusty old book. A vengeful look in Abel's glare told him that this formula was the only way to get what he rightfully deserved: the murder of his wife, daughter, and uncle, murdered by her own kin. Chapter 1. New Day. There was a young man sleeping hunched over a work table, blueprints of all kinds scattered on and around it. His name is Cain Sol. It was a sight that his servants saw as often as they saw dusk in the hallways. He was so far gone into his sleep that hardly anything ever woke him up. Nothing except that odd tickling feeling on his nose. He rose up from his slumber rather groggily, his crystal blue eyes glowing in the dark room. His dark tanned hands rubbed his eyes free from gunk and pushed his long brown hair backwards. He groaned as he stretched his muscular arms. He was decently built for a 17-year-old. Enough to not be ashamed of how he looked. Ugh, did I fall asleep on my desk again? He asked to no one in particular. Then he looked down at the table. It wasn't uncommon to see dozens of blueprints for his inventions here, nor was it to see him so obsessed with a project that he fell asleep to it. Oh yeah, I remember. That guy wanted repairs and upgrades for his engines. Gods, I should have just gone to bed. A light knocking came from his ajar door. Your Highness, are you awake? Asked his maid Gammy innocently. Unlike other elves, Gammy didn't use the elven dialect unless greatly stressed, mostly due to her training as a maid. She wore a standard black and white maid outfit with a flat black shoes and white frill on top of her medium-length maroon hair styled in a bob. Hidden below her dress was a cleverly hidden pistol as her secondary training as a guardsman. This outfit complemented her skinny elven frame, her long pointed ears, and her maroon eyes. A common trait among the elves in Twin Sol are that their eye color matches their hair color, with the exception of a few other like the dark and nature elves. The relationship between Cain and Gammy was very special, so much so that he wasn't offended when he saw the feather duster behind her back. Must have been her who woke him up. King turned his head and smiled at the maid. Good morning, Gammy, he yawned tiredly. Guess I fell asleep at the desk again. I noticed, sir, she replied softly. Would you like for me to set out your clothes today? Sure. Make it my sharp clothes since I'm heading to the shop. You always ask for your sharp clothes, Your Highness, she giggled. Wouldn't you like to wear your nicer ones? A question like this would normally demand immediate retaliation or punishment elsewhere, but not with these two. You know I can't stand those itchy garbs. I prefer a classic t-shirt and jeans combo with my steel-toe boots, please. Gammy bowed. Yes, Your Majesty, as she walked to Cain's wardrobes as she began to speak freely. So, how did you sleep last night? Well, despite not being in bed again. As he came up behind her, he stretched his right arm out. Well, considering I don't have any cricks in my body, I say it was a good night's rest. Any good dreams? She held his favorite purple t shirt and folded it carefully. Next to it was his black jeans. Don't know. Can't remember. He chuckled. I can never remember my dreams unless they're really powerful or meaningful. Why do you ask? Gammy took a deep breath. I'm just curious because, well, I know your birthday is coming up. The day you become king in about 4 days will be the anniversary of. I know, Kane interrupted, grabbing his shirt and pants rather impatiently. I'm sorry, sir, Gammy stated with an apologetic bow. I realize how insensitive it was to bring up this tender subject. Please forgive me. King sighed after removing his old shirt. Despite not being overly muscular, his deep, heat tanned skin combined with the frame he had still made him look fantastic, even after the light was turned on. It will be 7 years since my sister's brutal assassination, he lamented. Not a day goes by where I wish she was still here. Gammy, but I know she can't be. It's why the Shin Festival will light up the streets like the stars in the midnight sky. But I'm not going to focus on that right now. I've got an order to finish. Gamby watched in reverent silence as he put his new shirt on. She has lived in this castle ever since Kang was 8 years old, and she has gotten to know him personally. Before his sister's assassination, he was very outgoing and carefree, but after she was found headless in her bed, he had changed. Now, now he was less carefree and outgoing, but still relatively positive. Still, well, it was noticeable that he started maturing and seeing the world in all its colors since that horrific day. This was not the first murder in the royal family. The day he was born, Queen Serenata, Cain's mother and Abel's wife, was murdered in cold blood. Her head was cleaned right off her shoulders with a thin double-edged sword the exact way Shin was, leading many to speculate that they were murdered by the same being. No one was more positive about this theory than Cain. He was, after all, the one who saw the assassin's silhouette in the window the night his sister was killed. A woman with a lean, fit body with long, light colored hair and deep tanned skin. He vowed to find this woman one day, but not today. Once his clothes were on, he took a brush and smoothed his hair, a few sprays of cologne, and a quick brush of his teeth, and he was off with his work binder in hand. Down the ornate hallways, he was followed by Gammy at a confident pace. As he walked down, he saw some of the paintings of his ancestors on the wall. Deep down, he hoped he would be a great ruler like them. Every night, he practiced all his royal proclamations and hoped that they were golden. Gammy said they were great, but he knew she was just being nice. He came up to the portrait of his father and froze. That was in his tracks. There was so many difference between them as evidenced by this painting. From Abel's lighter skin color to his dark hairstyle and brown eyes, everything between these two was opposing. Despite all their differences, he was still a good king to his people. Kang wanted to be like that. One of the other maids came down the hall. Good morning, my prince. Where are you off to this morning? The shop, Kang replied. Let my father know I'll be back later, please. Of course, sir, the maid stated, followed by a bow and then a speedy march towards Abel's chambers. Because the castle was so large, it took roughly 10 minutes for the young man and his maid to reach the front lobby, which would make the most grand hotel imaginable. Look at a cheap gymnasium. Gamby went to force the large doors open when a loud voice came from the grand staircase. Stop! Kang froze in his tracks. He had a feeling that his father would stop him before leaving. He turned around and smiled. Hi, father, what's going on? Abel was halfway down the stairs when and the strongly built black-haired man and began to speak. Are you off to that disgusting mechanical shop again? He sneered in annoyance. That is no place for a royal to be, let alone employed. So you say every time I go, King sighed. He trusted his father completely, but some of his rules were rather absurd. Abel was half a head taller than his son, but felt taller due to his crown. His dark brown eyes bore into his son's with intensity. You are royal blood, but son, he boomed. What you like to do in your spare time is what peasants do. Besides, in 4 weeks, you become king in my stead. Should you not be practicing your decrees right now? I have those completely memorized now, Kang replied. Don't worry, father. I have it in the bag. I'm just going to town to check on a few things. I'm going to have Gammy with me the whole time as well, so I'm protected. She's a cleaning maid first and guardsman second, Abel dismissed. If you're going to go into the city, at least take a full guardsman with you. Thanks, but I prefer Gammy watching my back instead of whatever hard case you send with me. Besides, she's trained. Abel growled. Typical. Here I am trying to protect you, and all you care about is that elf we found running through our halls. Yeah, because I know which guard you want to send after me, Kane snapped. She hates me, and I hate her. Feelings mutual. Shiara does not hate you, Kane, Abel corrected. She is very protective and concerned for your safety, especially in the coming weeks. He leaned closer and whispered softly, Need I remind you that your sister, my daughter, was going to become queen that day she was found dead? This made Kang both angry and tearful. Yes, Shen was supposed to be queen that day, the day she died. It was this fear of the unknown that made him secretly afraid of the crown. It's why he has been putting his trust in Gammy a lot more than the past few months. He would rather have someone he rescued from poverty watch his back than a royal guardsman he couldn't read. Abel leaned back. Very well. I'm willing to be lenient. You can have your maid stay close, but I want you to have Shiara at least within 15 feet of you at all times. Make it 30 and you got a deal. Abel nodded. That's fair. Shiara waits for you at your transports in the courtyard. Don't keep her waiting. This tough love has been quite common lately. Abel wanted what's best for his son. This much Cain knew. He also knew why his father wanted her watching him. His father wasn't exactly the biggest elf supporter, not since his beloved uncle Fastaro was murdered by one during the Civil War. Not only that, but having governed an entire city of people, which be very taxing on the body and the mind, which made him understandably wary. Abel accepted this and as his birthright, as did his son. In the open courtroom, there was a black vehicle sitting in hover mode with a tall woman in black clothes standing at the back of the door. Unlike most vehicles on the other planets, all twin Solian vehicles and boats were built with hover technology for speed, smooth traveling. Some are even outfitted for defense against much bigger threats. The woman who stood at the back door of the vehicle was one of Abel's top guardsmen, Shiara. Was a proud and strong woman, wholly dedicated to protecting the royal family. This deep-tanned woman with ice blue eyes and long white hair stood tall as King approached her. Good morning, Prince King, she said calmly, and as she opened the rear door. Where shall we go today? The repair shop, King replied. I've got an order I want to finish as soon as I can, and I want my best people to help me. Well, I'm flattered that I get to see you at work, she replied coldly. In truth, she didn't care at all about Kane's offensive passions. As far as he knew, she was just there to keep him safe. Nothing more. Kane hopped into the back of the vehicle while Shiara and Gami went up front. Don't even think about mocking me, King thought angrily. Just stay away from me and my work and we'll be good. The vehicle lurched into drive mode and exited the courtyard, heading towards the lower parts of the city where Shen's repair shop rested.